Hello everyone, my name is ALKRTY. Um, I would like to thank you. I would like to thank everyone for visiting my church and supporting me by emailing me and sending me an encouragement message. I do appreciate it. Thank you so much for that. Okay, today our topic is going to be about children right, or the young people right. Children, as it has been defined in the United Nations, this the people from one day old up to 18 years old, and there is many countries around the world has been taken the same definition, especially in Western country and North America and Australia as well. So our topic, as I said, about children's rights is very important topic. Um, so it's going to be very short. I'm going to give you, I will give you a short presentation on this topic. So the point that I'm going to touch are, the first one is going to be about the history and children, and that include the why the United Nations, the notion behind why the international community have to have many agencies to protect and to support children as vulnerable people. Okay, the second one is going to be about the declaration of the right of the right of the right of child, and the third one is going to be children and armed conflict, as we know that there is many children being recruited or being used in the zone of armed conflict to fight, and that's absolutely illegal. The fourth one is going to be about the violence against children, different form of violence, maybe sexual violence, maybe physical violence, emotional violence, mental violence. All this sort of violence is absolutely unacceptable in the civil society. It's absolutely unacceptable, and many people, they get really upset when the children, doesn't matter who the children belong to, as long they are children and they cannot defend themselves. So people or the society around the world has to speak up. If they see something, has to do something about it, because especially the vulnerable children, all the children being abused by their close relative, is absolutely unacceptable. It's very hard to find out, but if you find out, please, you have to report to the authority. Okay, the sixth point is that I'm going to talk to you about is about the fifth one. Sorry, about the children and the sustainable development goals. Um, yes, we know that I have mentioned this before in the previous video. I was talking about the you know the 17 sustainable development goal that been adopted in 2015, and the international community hoping that by 2030 this sustainable development will be achieved around the world. Okay, the sixth one is going to be about children and the United Nations system. There is many specialized agency and organization around the world. All these agencies are specialized on protecting and promoting the children right around the world. And the last point is going to be about resource. So I have placed some links there for people that they are interested to get more information about this topic. So they go to this website and they will find more information. All right, let's get started. The first slide is going to be about the history and children, the United Nations Agency for Children. So as I said, the notion of the United Nations Agency, it lies back to the history. So after the math of the World War II, we're talking about the period of the period that following the unpleasant event or accident. So the World War II, it wasn't pleasant event. It was really horrible. Many people being killed, and among them were children. So the plight, which means the unpleasant condition, especially serious, sad, or difficult one. So of Europe, children was grave, and new agency created by the United Nations stepped in to provide food and clothes and health care to these children. So the main aim of this agency was to provide this basic need for children, such as food, clothing, healthcare, and to these children in that time. In 1953, the UNICEF, this is the United Nations agency specialized on children, become a permanent part of the United Nations. So it became as a permanent organization to protect children around the world, and began a successful global campaign against yachts, which means that the noise of the ship or the aircraft, disfiguring disease affecting millions of children, and one that can be cured with penicillin. Penicillin is a type of medicine that kills bacteria and is used to treat illness. So this is it was limited. The aim of the agency that specialized on children, it was limited, but it was limited on term of the in term of the in the jurisdiction, such as I said earlier, food, clothing, healthcare, and promoting health to children around the world. So this is it was in 1953. But what happened after that? After that, in 1953, 1959, I mean, the United Nations General Assembly adopted the Declaration of Right for Children of the Child, which define children's right to protection, education, health care, shelter, and good nutrition. So it is expand from food and clothing. So it expand the jurisdiction of this organization has expand to protection, children right protection, education, health care, shelter, and good nutrition. For example, in terms of education, following more than 10 years of focus on child health issue, UNICEF, this is a specialized organization, expand it is interest to address the need of the whole child. As a result, began on a binding concern with the education, starting with the support for teacher training and classroom e equipment in new independent countries. So the interest of the organization has been expand, become bigger and bigger. The jurisdiction become bigger and bigger. So they try to to, uh, to, uh, to 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 include all the basic need of the children around the world. We're still in the Declaration of Right of Child, and in 1956, in 1965, the organization was rewarded the Nobel Prize. That's in 1965. That's right, because the effort that been put um, and they've been promoting and encouraging other states to sign this declaration. As a result, uh, more than 190 countries and territory around the world uh, has been signed and ratified this declaration. So the Nobel Peace Prize for 1965 was for the UNICEF organization, and the statement it says here, we have come together here today to pay tribute by the a award for the Nobel Peace Prize to an organization, UNICEF, because it has fulfilled the condition of Nobel will the promotion of uh, brotherhood among the nations. So the Nobel Committee said it is awarded the ceremony speech. This is the statement has been read in the ceremony of the reward to the UNICEF, which was great, and they deserve it because they put too much effort to protect children around the world. Okay, we're still in the Declaration of the Right of Children. There is Convention on the Right of Child. UNICEF works is guided by the Convention on the Right of the Child. In 1989, the convention is the most rapid and widely ratified, or being signed by the ratified by the state international human rights treaty in history. Is it was really quickly people the state this was encouraging to ratify this declaration because it's very important. So the convention changed international human rights treaty in history. This is what it says here. The convention changed the way children are viewed and treated. For example, human being with a distinct set of rights instead of the of as a passive object of care and charity. So the what it says here this declaration or this piece of document is very important for all states around the world. Therefore, more than 190 states has been ratified this declaration. Um, okay, state the word children. Every child is the right of child. Every child around the world has right to health, education, and protection, and every society has stake in expanding child's opportunities in life. Unfortunately, around the world, millions of children are denied fair chance for no reason other than the country, gender, or circumstance into which they are born. So, because of their tradition, the way the life is in many states, that's why there is many children around the world has been denying denying their right until now, and this is it wasn't it's unacceptable. That's why the UNICEF and other specialized agency on children, they are working really hard to prompt this state to change their law and the way how they treat children. Okay, despite great progress in school enrollment in many parts of the world. Okay, there is many children aged between 6 and 11 who are out of school at the moment has increased unfortunately since 2011, and the figures says here about 124 million children are and adolescents do not attend schools, and 2 out of 5 level primary school without learning how to read, write, or do basic arithmetic, like something to do with mathematics, according to 2013 data. So this is the challenge has increased to protect nature to protect these kids to get them to involve in education and school. And the other challenge is this is the slides that I'm going to talk to you about. Next slide is about conflict. Okay, children are armed conflict. As I said earlier, there is many children involved in military active or become soldier, uh, and that was against their wills. So I'm going to read it out here. It says here, more than 20 years ago, the world united to condemn and mobilize against the use of children in armed conflict. Since then, thousands of children have been released as a result of action plans mandated by the United Security Council and others action aimed at ending and preventing recruitment and use of children by armed forces and groups. However, serious challenge for the protection of children affected by armed conflict remain. So it says here, even though that much effort been has been put in place, and the as a result of that, there is many kids has been released from the armed activity, but still nearly 250 million children live in countries and areas affected by armed conflict for example, in Syrian Arab Republic. The 5 years conflict has caused the death of more than 250,000 people, including thousands of children. In Afghanistan, in 2015, the highest number of children casualties was recorded since the United Nations began systematically documenting civilian casualty in 2009. Children are armed conflict in Somalia. This is in Horn Africa. So there is in Somalia. In Somalia, it said here the situation continued to be paralyzed, which means very dangerous, with an increase of 50% in numbers of recording violation against children compared with 2014, with many hundreds of children recruited, used, killed, and mammoth. Mammoth mean one person, lost the ability to use one of his part because of injury. That's when the word of mammoth mean. A most troubling example in South Sudan, children were victims of all six grave violations. In particular, during brutal military offense against opposition forces, millions of children, many of whom are unaccompanied or separated from their families, are being displaced by armed conflict. These children are at the high risk of grave violation in and around campus and other areas of refugee. Action is urgently required to alleviate or to relieve the disaster of children displaced by armed conflict, and uh, the Secretary General encouraged member states to respect the right of displaced and refugee children and to provide them with necessary support service is very important. Okay, violence against children. So, as I said earlier, the violence against children can take many forms, and could be like physical violence, could be sexual violence, could be mental violence, could be emotional violence, and all this sort of violence is absolutely unacceptable. So I'm going to read it out again here. It says here, the right of children to protect from violence is enshrined, enshrined, which means keep something as if in holy place, which very important. The violence against children is unacceptable in the Convention on the Right of Children, and yet still on billion children experience some form of emotional, physical, or sexual violence every year, and one child dies from violence every 5 minutes. This is a lot. Violence against children knows no boundaries of culture, class, or education. It can happen everywhere, all the time, because there is no such thing that this culture or this society or this community they don't do that, but it can happen. It takes place against children in institutions such as Catholic institution, church, school, at home. Peer violence in also concern, as is the growth in cyberbullying. This is sort of violence too. Children exposed to violence live in isolation, loneliness, and fear, not knowing where to turn for help. That's why I am calling upon everyone that knows that children being abused has to do something about, has to report it. It's very important. We cannot leave children being abused by their own parent. Violence against children was still there, as in 2016 the United Nations study provided a set recommendation on how to end violence against children, and the Secretary General appointed a special representative to ensure their effective following up to monitor implementation. And there has been some real progress. Many states now have legislation to prohibit physical, mental, and sexual violence and support victims, which is great. That is the thing we need to see. And there is campaign or reason awareness of the negative impact of violence and pulling sexual violence and harmful practice against children are being tackled. We also have more data on scales and nature of violence. This progress has been made, and people being aware of violence and being criminalized. If somebody has done something and being caught up, has to stand before the court to be accountable. Children and Sustainable Development Goals. Okay, as I said, I mentioned in the previous uh, we saw previous video that sustainable development it involves children. It says here for the 15 years, the Millennium Development Goals were a guiding force on many issues affecting the life of children, young people, and their families. Over these times, tremendous or huge progress was made in reducing preventable child death, getting more children into school, reducing extreme poverty, and in ensuring more people have access to safe water and nutrition food. However, progress has been uneven, and many of the most pressing issues for the world, including addressing inequalities and promoting inclusive economic growth, protecting children from violence, and combating climate change. We were not adequately covered in the Millennium Development Goals. Children and Sustainable Development Goals. So, as I said earlier, it has been involved and it been included in the Sustainable Development Goal. And this goal, as I said, it has been adopted in 2015 by the world leader, have committed to ending poverty by 2030, But unless I accelerate it or I put to speed up if it are made by 2030, almost there is figures here and it's quite scary. Almost 70 million children are died before reaching their fifth birthday. 70 million children. That's a lot. Children in sub-Saharan Africa, Saharan Africa, will be 10 times more likely to die before their fifth birthday than children in high income countries, such as Western countries. 9 out of 10 children living in extreme poverty will live in sub-Saharan Africa. It's very sad. Therefore, the United Nations has to mobilize their resources to sub-Saharan Africa to do something about it before it's too late. As we know right now, these figures, like right now, we know the dangers as the kids in sub-Saharan Africa being through right now. More than 60 million primary school age children will be out of school. Roughly the same numbers as are out of school today. More than half will be from sub-Saharan Africa. Very, very sad. Very, very sad to see these figures, but it's reality. Some 750 million women will have been married as children. So I believe the United Nations has to mobilize their resources to the sub-Saharan Africa to address this problem there. Children and the United Nations system. Okay, as I said, there is many specialized organizations around the world. Some of them are specialized in education and science. Some of them are specialized on the what they call themselves to prevent children from labor, or the child labor they call it. And some of them they uh, are organized are specialized on the Palestine refugee in the Near East. So all these organizations are working together as a team to be able to achieve um, something for the children of the world. Alright, we come to the end of this video. So I have placed some resources here, some links for these people who are interested to get or to gain more information about this topic. Meanwhile, I would like to thank you so much for your patience and listening, and I will be talking to you sometime very soon. And goodbye for now. Thank you. Bye.